Our next speaker is the Honorable Steve Milliken, or retired judge is supposed to be called formally honorable. I don't know. In any case, he's still honorable in my book. He earned a BA in English Literature from Harvard. Is a 1978 Antioch School of Law graduate. And after law school, he entered the service honors program at the U.S. Department of Justice in criminal law. And then he was a Prettyman Fellow at Georgetown. And he practiced law with current Fox News anchor Greta Van Susteren and current D.C. Superior Court Chief Presiding Judge, I think he still is, Russ Cannon. And then after becoming a D.C. Superior Court judge, after 22 years on the bench, he did retire, and now he has founded his new fabulous organization, Justice Aid, which held its first event at the Hamilton last night. And I'm surprised that I'm up this early, even though it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was an awesome, awesome event. So, Judge.
Thank you, Joe. I am amazed that all of you are here, that you came indoors out of that gorgeous day to come to this symposium, and thank you for doing that. And I really want to say that, forget all those other schools, by far the best education that I ever got in my life was the Antioch School of Law. And I have to give credit to Edgar Kahn, because he came up with an idea that, you know, just when you think about it, it's so simple. It's professional education to serve people. And just take a leaf from the medical model and care for people. And it's genius. And clinical legal education, service learning, all of it is the only way to put professionals in the field in a way that serves justice. So I just had to pause to say that. I think otherwise I pretty much yielded all of my time in advance to Edgar Kahn, and I could listen to you all day long, so thank you very much for your talk. My idea is even simpler, and it's just bring good people together with great entertainment for justice. So we found a little organization called Justice Aid. I got some folks together, many of whom you know, lawyers in town like Michelle Roberts and Gary Coleman and others, and I was inspired a little bit by some house concerts, you know, where people would get a musician and pass the hat and raise some money. And I thought, well, so why don't we try to figure out how we can enlarge that? And so in the 50th anniversary year of Gideon versus Wainwright, we reached out to a former public defender in D.C., John Rapping, and his wife, Ilya Skia, and said, how about if we throw a party in D.C. and we'll get some bands, got some good local talent, and support local music, but more importantly, give all the proceeds to help public defenders being trained by Gideon's Promise throughout the Southeast particularly. And I said last night, Andrew was there, I hate to repeat myself, but if you are arrested and you have money, you get a stick, but your stick is a walking stick. Even if you have a bond, you can pay it. And we know that people who are released, who are ultimately convicted and sentenced, have somewhere a high 80% likelihood of not going to prison and getting a probationary result. And I don't quote me on that figure because it's probably a dated figure. But there's an overwhelming advantage. Money does buy justice. And we have a crisis throughout the land, perhaps the biggest crisis in the law, in the underfunding of public defender offices. It was an article in yesterday's editorial in the New York Times on how this is crippling the federal defender's office. So you can imagine what it's doing throughout the states, where those services are held in even less regard than in the national system. And so our idea is you bring people together, great entertainment, greater cause, from a house party level. You know, Eric Clapton did that Crossroads guitar function. He's raised $25 million for a drug treatment center with a sliding scale fee out of Antigua. Now, we didn't raise quite so much money, but last night we brought a lot of people together and raised $50,000 for Gideon's Promise. Now, that's an extraordinary organization. And the other side of that stick is if you're poor, and especially if you're a person of color, you get the other end of that stick. You get beaten, you get disadvantaged in every other thing you try to do with your life, and it's as I said, I think it's the most howling injustice we have. So I was privileged to be a public citizen. I did hate the fact that you can't be an activist, you can't be political, you gotta be neutral and detached. And I'm very glad to be a private citizen, go back to my Antioch roots and be an activist again and raise a hell of a lot of money to turn things around. So thank you very much for coming out, and on to the next. That probably took the next question.
No, you were succinct. I didn't know judges were allowed to. No, thanks.